Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn, along with the insane Daryl Wayne, here on Late Night Health. And during the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to spend some time talking about some cutting-edge exoskeletal technology that is being used widely by leading rehabilitation centers worldwide to assist stroke and spinal cord injury patients to get back on their feet again. In fact, one leading technology called the EksoGT has helped these patients take over 100 million steps to date, equivalent to 50,000 miles or the distance of walking around the world twice. We're going to go to Winfield, Illinois. We're going to go to the Marianjoy Rehabilitation Hospital in Winfield, and we're going to start our conversation with Lauren Bularzik, and we'll be joined later on by Jennifer Kray. Lauren, by the way, is an expert in this. Jennifer Kray had a stroke at the age of 23, and she's going to share her moving story with us in just a little bit. Lauren, welcome to Late Night Health. This is an amazing technology. I've seen some videos on it. It actually allows patients, while they're in a rehab hospital, to walk, right?
That is correct. We've been using Ekso primarily with our stroke and spinal cord populations, so it's been a really useful tool for their rehab while they stay here at Marianjoy.
What's the primary goal of using the EksoGT?
Well, it's based on the concept of neuroplasticity. So for our patients, we're trying to not just strengthen their muscles, but also retrain their brain. And research shows that increasing the number of repetitions, or with Ekso, the number of steps taken, actually helps improve that neuroplasticity and helps kind of retrain the patient the best patterns of movement, get them used to being upright again, kind of everything that's great for the body.
I should mention that EksoGT was developed by EksoBionics. I'm doing that wrong, aren't I?
Ekso, like an exoskeleton, basically.
EksoGT and EksoBionics, and using this strengthens both the body and the mind.
Exactly.
Wow. I've seen videos, and you have to picture this, and you can go to exobionics.com to see how it works. It's amazing. The patient is literally fit into what looks like a robot. That's how it looks like to me.
Yes.
Lauren, tell us about that.
Basically what happens is a PT who is trained in Ekso will take measurements of a patient that's deemed appropriate, and then we fit the patient into basically an exoskeleton with kind of what looks like a jetpack for a backpack. And we get them strapped in, and then the gears and motors at the different joints will help power that person into standing, where once they're standing, we can have them doing different types of exercises, general gait training, kind of a host of different activities, which they probably weren't going to be able to do outside of the robotic suit. And
we should point out that this is designed specifically for a rehabilitation hospital. It's not for somebody who, is paralyzed and is going to walk down the aisle to get married.
Correct. This is a clinical piece of equipment, and it needs to be utilized by trained PTs. So EksoBionics actually comes out and takes dozens of hours, multiple trips to train the therapists that are using it. So unfortunately, no, it's not a home-use device, but it does definitely make a big impact for our patients while they're here, both inpatient and outpatient.
So when you have worked with patients, when you've seen a patient who has suffered a spinal cord injury, does not have mobility, and you put them in this robotic suit, okay, that looks like something out of the 25th century, Buck Rogers, right? what's the first thing out of their mouths? What do they say?
Usually it's somewhere between awe and a little bit of panic, because we're taking somebody who's probably been in a seated or laying down position for a little bit of time, either from an injury or from a progressive loss of function. So these are people who have watched a previously functional level decline, and now we're getting them back up into standing. And so it takes them a minute to kind of orient to this new position. So it's a little startling, definitely, the first time we stand people up, letting a robot do the work for you and trying to find your balance. But typically after a couple of sessions and people kind of learn with the robot and the robot learns with the patient, they really enjoy it. It's a positive physically and mentally.
It's a wow.
Yes.
Right? It would be. It would seem to me that it would be a wow. How does it work? I understand that, if somebody has a spinal cord injury or has a stroke, you go to PT or physical therapy, and you're worked with a therapist. They do exercises. They work with you in a variety of ways. How is this different from traditional physical therapy?
Well, thinking with like a stroke or a spinal cord injury patient, when it comes to getting patients like that who have returning function or are gaining strength, during that process of kind of lowest level baseline to highest level of potential, the therapist is doing a lot of physical work, hence physical therapist. But because of that,
by that you mean that they're moving the arms, the legs, the torso, the body.
There's a lot going on,
right,
that we physically have to muscle through these patients to get them in the positions we need. So for some of these patients, we get them started and we get them finally to a point where we can practice standing, and there's a chair right behind them and there's bars for them to hang on to, and we're in front of them and we're pulling at the waist and blocking up at the knees, and we're basically holding this person in this position, and our muscles tire out. We can only do that for so long.
Right.
Ekso allows us a little bit more freedom. It does a lot of that physical labor for us. It gets the patient into standing. It doesn't take all of their energy just to get up. Where someone who's just learning how to walk again, that's probably a 2 or 3 therapist job in some cases. There's someone behind just in case, and there's someone on each leg, and someone making sure they're not going to, collapse up top. And Ekso does some of that for us. It straps people in, and it allows us to do more repetitively for them. So it's been very helpful from that perspective.
You said that the repetition does help both physically, and I could see, a stroke patient, for example, or even a spinal cord injury, somebody with in a car accident or sporting event, and their muscles atrophy. They from lack of use. Does EksoGT help with that?
In some ways it does. Anytime you're using your muscles, you have the potential to gain strength, as well as changing the position helps with strengthening your bones, helps with your cardiovascular system. So it can help from that perspective. I can actually set the robot. I can give it a ceiling effect and say that if it has to give more than, 60%, then the patient's got to kick in the other part. And, I can make it a lot harder on the patient. I can really get it to be a strengthening tool. I can get it to be a motor training tool. I can really make it do anything I want for the patient.
And it depends individually on each patient.
Exactly.
EksoBionics here in California, up in the Bay Area in Richmond, how many units are used? And it's being used worldwide, as I said at the beginning of our talk.
I don't have an exact figure at this time how many are being used. I know here at Marianjoy we're really fortunate to have 2 different Ekso systems, one that's used primarily by our inpatient therapists and one that's used primarily by our outpatient therapists, so we can maximize the number of people we get into it.
Gotcha.
But total number, I'm not sure.
All right, got it. And at the same time, these are I guess each patient customized to each patient as it's being used. If Daryl was in it, it'd be for him or me or you or Jennifer, who we'll talk to coming up to find out what kind of how she feels about using the EksoGT from Ekso Bionics. What is your background as an expert in this?
Well, I am a licensed physical therapist here at Marianjoy, so I have my doctorate in physical therapy. And then when it comes to Ekso, myself and a couple other therapists at this location have been trained in it. So there's 2 different types of levels of training, and I've completed all of them.
Gotcha.
So at this point, I would kind of that's how they're doing it.
Got it. Well, we're going to take some time out. When we come back, we will spend a few moments with Jennifer Kray, who had a stroke at the age of 23, and we'll continue our conversation with Lauren Bularzik as well. I'm Mark Alyn here at Late Night Health. Join us at latenighthealth.com. We'll have an article as well as, I think, some pictures of the EksoGT on our website coming up. All right, we're going to take some time out, turn it over to Daryl, and we will be back. Join us at latenighthealth.com. latenighthealth.com.
You're listening to Late Night Health with Mark Alyn. The show continues in a moment.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. Although it's easy to draw a line in the sand, it's always worth the extra effort to draw from your heart. Hatred and anger are so easy to fall upon, especially when you become frustrated with someone. Love and forgiveness may take some work, but just look at the benefits. In the heat of the moment, you can easily say something regrettable, but you can also take a deep breath and think, is this worth the anguish? You can stand up and shout and protest against something you disagree with, but quite often, it's the quiet heart that speaks louder than any anger ever could. Tempered steel is strongest when it's been cooled. When you let anger pass you by, you will always return to a place of love.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenighthealth.com.
The stigma around mental health disorders and suicide is still very strong in our culture. It's an uncomfortable topic for many of us, and yet it's something we can't afford to ignore, according to Dan Shuck, the author of A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups. Last month, the CDC released a study that reports suicide rates went up more than 30% in half the states since 1999. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, takes a new approach to addressing mental illness. The book playfully explores pessimism versus optimism to find balance, manage stress, and enjoy life. The book uses humor to provide an opportunity to determine the fullness of our own glass and how to apply it to our daily lives. Donations from the proceeds of the book will be made to a Glass Half Question fundraising campaign for the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. A Glass Half Empty or Half Full, a children's book for grown-ups, is available from Amazon.com, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. For more information, visit www.glasshalfquestion.com.